To go ahead and start our Council of Mayors Executive Committee. I'd like to call this meeting to order for January 12th, 2026. So Happy New Year, everybody. Yeah, so and just to let you know that Mayor Shelkey, he's under the weather, but he will be joining us via Zoom. So you've got me. So, but I'm looking forward to having a good meeting. So, first of all, some housekeeping notes, members. In order for online attendees to hear you, please mute your microphones when speaking and identify yourself for the records. For everyone attending this meeting in person, please add your name to the sign-in sheet in the hallway so that staff will know who attended. This meeting is also on Zoom and is being recorded. For those joining us on Zoom, please keep your microphones muted unless you are called upon to speak. If you wish to speak during the public comment, please indicate your intentions via the chat box or using the raise hand function on Zoom. Staff monitoring the Zoom will recognize you when it's your turn to speak. And if we could all silence our phones. That's that one. Let me silence this one also. Okay. So at this time, we can do introductions. Please let us know what council you're with. So again, my name's Leon Rockingham, Mayor of the City of North Chicago, and I'm with Lake. We can go to my right, Jane. Oh, I'm sorry.
Jane Grover, CMAP.
Erin Alaman, Executive Director at CMAP.
John Skillman, Kane, Kendall County, Mayor of Carpentersville.
Jeff Sherwin, Mayor City of North Lake, representing North Central.
David Mork, CMAP staff.
States Northwest Municipal Conference.
Laura Sonoica, Northwest Region and Mayor of the City of Rolling Meadows.
Mary Warner, Village President, Village of Worth, Southwest Council.
Dave Brady, Village President, Bedford Park, Southwest Council.
And I'm Stephanie Pfeiffer. I'm the Deputy of Planning at CMAP.
In the audience?
Thank you, Terry. Neil James, Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus.
Edith Macra, Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus.
Eric Chernoda, Northwest Municipal Conference.
Gretchen Clark, Kane Kendall Council Mayors.
David Kovarik, McHenry County DOT.
Sarah Stolpe, CMAP staff.
Doug Ferguson, CMAP staff.
Ryan Gugis, CMAP staff.
Kyle Schultz, CMAP's Deputy for Strategic Advancement.
Maren Lutterbach, CMAP staff.
John Hodsma, CMAP staff.
Richard Norwood, CMAP staff.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We do have a quorum. And is there anyone other than Mayor Shelkey on the line that wish to attend? Do we know?
We do know.
Okay. Being that Mayor Shelkey is there and to participate remotely in this meeting, it is for the Open Meetings Act, which requires a vote and approval for his participation. Do we have a motion and a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second that Mayor Shelkey be admitted via Zoom. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Mayor Shelkey, are you on?
Yeah, I'm on, Mayor Rockingham. I appreciate very much the understanding. I was in the hospital last week with COVID and they've forced me to wear a mask and be on not very visible for the next couple of days. And then finally I'll be back. I've recuperated very nicely, so I'm okay.
Very good. Well, thank you. Thank you. And I hope you recover real soon. So, and thank you for allowing me to do this. But so that we can continue to move forward, I'd like to move up on the agenda 6-1. We're ready to go? Okay, 6-1. We are joined with Kyle Schultz from CMAP and Andrew Batson, a site consultant from JLL, for a discussion on issues that are getting a lot of attention in the region is the data center. So it's all yours.
We're going to start with Stephanie.
Oh, okay, Stephanie.
All right. Good morning, everyone. So data centers have definitely been in the news a lot recently. It's a land use that our residents actually are really aware of, including probably some of our family members, very aware of this land use. Especially in our region, Northeastern Illinois has become an attractive location for data center development. From a planning standpoint, that's really not surprising. There are some very clear reasons for that. We have strong infrastructure, we have access to fiber, proximity to major markets, and a relatively stable risk when it comes to natural hazards. From a developer's perspective, that really checks a lot of boxes. And so that's one of the reasons that they are very prevalent in our area. But from a municipal perspective, data centers present a unique set of policy and governance questions, and not all of them have easy answers. Unlike more traditional industrial or commercial uses, data centers can arrive quickly, scale rapidly, and generate impacts that aren't always obvious right away. That puts local leaders in the position of having to make some informed decisions, often on some fairly accelerated timelines. One of the first challenges is always land use. How do we zone data centers appropriately? Are they compatible, or do they conflict with our neighborhoods and our community plans? There are some communities that are hitting pause to make sure the regulations can catch up to the new technology. A good example is Aurora's 180-day moratorium, which puts in place specifically to give the city time to renew and update its zoning approach to data centers. That kind of deliberate planning that kind of deliberate planning is something many communities are considering right now, so something we wanted to also elevate. There are also infrastructure and cost questions, particularly around electricity. Data centers are major energy users, and municipalities are asking whether large new facilities could have downstream impacts on residents' electrical bills, on the capacity of their local grids. Water is another concern. Historically, data centers were known for significant water demand for cooling. That technology is evolving, but how do we know that they are improving that? Then there's the quality of life issues, noise pollution from cooling systems, backup generators, and round-the-clock operations. These are not abstract concerns for residents living nearby. So when a data center is proposed, what questions should municipalities and municipal leaders be asking? How will the facility scale over time? What commitments are being made around energy efficiency, water use, and the mitigation of off-site impacts? What do the tax benefits really look like compared to long-term infrastructure and service costs? And how does the proposal align with the community's comprehensive plan and broader economic goals? As mayors, you're asked to balance economic opportunity with stewardship of your community. Data centers are essential to our digital future. They support everything from public safety systems, healthcare, finance, and remote work and artificial intelligence. But the challenge is not whether to engage with this industry, but how to do so in a way that protects residents while positioning communities for the future. I'm really looking forward to our discussion today and learning from you about how you have been approaching data centers in your communities. And I'm especially looking forward to hearing from our two speakers today, my colleague Kyle Schultz and Andrew Batson, who will bring valuable perspective from both the planning and marketing sides of this issue. This is a very rapidly evolving space, and thoughtful, informed discussion is essential. I'm excited to be part of the conversation with you all today.
Mayor Rockingham. Mayor Rockingham, is that good? Everybody hear me? Excellent. Mayors, good morning. Happy Tuesday. As Stephanie said, I'm Kyle Schultz. I am the relatively new Deputy for Strategic Advancement here at CMAP. I joined in September after 15 years in the economic development space. 5.5 of which I was at World Business Chicago, where I oversaw our business development and site selection efforts. So some of the work that I got to be part of was helping to bring PsiQuantum and the US's first quantum supercomputer to Chicagoland. I got to support Upside Foods investment into Glenview, S&C Electric's expansion into Palatine, Ravago's growth plan for Montgomery, Illinois. And so as we thought about this presentation today, we wanted to provide an overview about why Chicagoland suddenly has this proliferation of data centers happening in our market. We're fortunate to have an incredible partner and speaker joining us at the tail end, but I just wanted to set up the stage. This is a topical conversation. There isn't a day that goes by in my newsfeed that I don't see a story connected to data center investment. And so thinking about how you are managing those considerations, as Stephanie said, we wanted to kind of go from a high-level market overview into some of the assets and reasons why we're seeing so much growth and where do we see in the forecast data centers landing in our region. Given the pace and demand that data center investment is taking place, I'm very pleased that we have our partners from the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus with us today. MMC has started a task force to work on data centers. And so Neil, his team, and myself will be available to answer any additional questions you have afterwards so that we can help ensure that your community has the growth plans that are best suited for itself. Can we go to the next slide, please? So wanted to start off with why is there this data center boom? I think first and foremost, the headline is from the Magnificent Seven and their huge investment into AI. Magnificent Seven is the Wall Street nickname for the leading tech firms like Alphabet, which is the parent company for Google, Meta, parent company for Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft, that are putting consequential investments into winning this AI race and being known for AI. I heard a story in the news last week that I thought summarized why there's so much investment in AI. All of those companies want to be known as the AI company. When we think about search today, we don't say go to the web and search, we say Google it. These companies are trying to own the AI space. And some of the numbers that the Mag 7 have committed to were staggering. And I wanted to share those with you just to understand how much investment is being made. Alphabet is projected to invest somewhere between $320 and $370 billion into their data center infrastructure. Amazon has committed to $100 billion in AI and data center capital investment. Microsoft is looking to build 20 to 40 new campuses for their data center operations. And Meta has pledged $600 billion in US investment for data centers over the next coming years. So there is a significant investment in arms race to win data centers. But this is not just the big tech companies. Because we are in Chicagoland, we have a different advantage as well. Chicagoland has the most diverse economy of any US market. Our nearly $1 trillion economy is made up of equal parts manufacturing, healthcare, transportation, and logistics. And one of the trends that we're starting to see is a shift from on-site cloud computing to cloud-based data storage. I'm sure you all have gone through offices or factories in your communities where you have seen a portion of that space earmarked for a data center that's got servers and racks at small scale. That is a cost liability for some of these companies. And what we're seeing in the economy today is we are moving away from small data rooms into to cloud-based computing, which allows these companies to treat their data like a utility, paying for only what they need, allowing for a depreciation and avoiding massive capital outlays, and gaining some flexibility that doesn't exist. The other key piece that I want you all to keep aware of as we see this is, again, it's not just the big tech companies that we interface with on a daily basis. We are in the midst of a continuing expansion of our digital economy. Digital economy is not just tech, it is not just AI, it is transportation and logistics, it is healthcare, it is food processing and manufacturing. And just to kind of emphasize why Chicagoland is a leader in that digital economy, we are fortunate enough to have in the Goose Island neighborhood of this city, MXD, which is Manufacturing by Digital, a federal institution that was established in 2014 to work with manufacturers in the Chicagoland region and the Midwest, helping them convert from being analog to digital, investing in how can they prepare their processes and data to be more secure. In the last 11 years, they've worked with 189 technology projects, most of them in the small and medium-sized businesses that populate our neighborhoods and backyards. Of those projects, they have helped 11 workforce development groups. So This institution in our backyard is really helping to epitomize and advance the work we have in the digital economy. Can we do the next slide, please? So why Illinois? Why are we seeing so much of this? We have the market factors here, but the first reason why you see a lot of this is our incentive that the state offers to data center investment. Illinois slashes upfront costs and rewards large-scale investment. We're going to touch more on what large-scale looks like in terms of data centers shortly. The program exempts qualifying data centers from state and local sales tax, and it covers servers, network hardware, cooling, and construction materials. The other big reason that I have heard more times than I can count is that ComEd is a differentiator when it comes to this type of large energy user. ComEd being affordable, reliable, and offering clean energy is a market differentiator for this area. ComEd's rates are superior to the coastal markets, and for groups like Amazon or Alphabet, the fact that ComEd has a mix of clean energy in their distribution system is a very attractive reason, given that those companies have pledged to have as much zero emissions as possible. Finally, the word that is going to come up throughout the remainder of this is latency. Latency is the distance in which data has to travel from point A to point B. Chicagoland is built on one of the most dense fiber networks in this entire country. Much like we think about our transportation network, our ability to move people through our rail or cars, we also have the fiber crossroads of this country. We offer the fastest routes from both coasts, as well as direct from Canada down to Mexico. This fiber network was built in part because we are a global financial hub, and there are serious consequences when the financial market does not have strong latency. Next slide, please. Oh, could you go back one? So my favorite part about this, and which is why I was asked to speak, is that while we're all from Chicago and we realize that January and February are the down payment we have to make for incredible summers in this market, and it's something that we often try to turn our conversation away as fast as possible when others say, why do you live there when it's so cold? For a data center, having our January and our February is really attractive because it allows them to minimize their cooling costs, taking advantage of Mother Nature's natural cold air. So that's another big reason why we see so much activity happening here. Now, next slide. So we have a dense fiber network, we have proximity to both coasts, and that has helped build out a strong existing data center network for us. This data center explosion boom is not new. Our estimates have the data center operations in this market somewhere between 150 and 180. Some that I want to point out just to frame what's happening. Digital Realty has one of the world's largest and most connected data centers located over by the McCormick Place on Chicago's south side. The reason that data center exists is because it sits right on top of the densest fiber network in this region. McCormick Place is right through the heart of our fiber network. But over the last 5 years, there has been a significant gain in the improvement of our latency. Companies are now able to stretch out farther and farther because of the gains that latency has offered. And so now we're starting to see data centers, which used to be highly concentrated around the McCormick Place, stretch out further and further. T5 in 2024 announced that they would build a 160-acre data center in Grays Lake. This is going to be focused on building 20 buildings to power a gigawatt-scale hyperscale facility, being attractive for those Googles and Facebooks of the world. Mayor McLeod, it's good to see you today because in 2023, you and I got to celebrate Compass Data Centers, which is a Dallas-based data center operator, purchase, acquisition, and plans to redevelop the Sears campus in Hoffman Estates into a large-scale data center operation. And then finally, the one that I think speaks most to the advances that have been made with latency and how these data center companies are thinking about our market is Equinix. 5.5 years ago, when I started at World Business Chicago, the first company I got to speak with was Equinix. They were planning a $500 million data center for the Bronzeville neighborhood of Chicago. Bronzeville was a Dan Ryan away from the McCormick Place, so ideal location for that dense fiber network that was so critical for them. But over the last 5 years, Equinix technology has allowed them to expand farther out. And at the end of last year, Equinix announced a partnership with Mayor Offerman in Manuka to build a 300-acre data center, essentially pivoting their plans from a 5-story data center to a massive 5-football field data center. So because of the improvements in latency, our region is going to be further positioned for data center opportunity because now data centers no longer have to be located right near the source. They need to be close to the source. Next slide, please. I wanted to frame the economics of data centers. Why are these promising for our community? The data you see here comes from our friends at World Business Chicago. In 2023, they published the first of its kind data center report. The team and I would be happy to share that report with you all afterwards, but also know that the team at WBC will be updating this report later this spring with new information. And so if you have more questions, or if you'd like to see certain economics pulled from that, please let me know and I'll be happy to have them include your questions and your needs. So for every one data center job, we get 4+ additional jobs in this economy. Those jobs in a data center are roughly $103,000, 6-figure salaries. And already we've got 15,000 people in our market employed by this industry, with projected growth in the 12 to now 15%. So huge economic upside for us in this space, especially with the salaries. Next slide. So as we think about the future of data centers, a couple of things that are themes that are coming up in my conversation and what I'm hearing for. First and foremost, BIPA, which is the Biometric Information and Privacy Act, which was passed in Illinois in 2008. This is an obstacle for a lot of the Magnificent Seven data center users. BIPA essentially applies a fine of somewhere between $1,000 to $5,000 per violation of a person's biometric data. The data center companies do not necessarily want our biometric information. They're trying to avoid class action lawsuits. And so that has put a limitation on how they are thinking about Chicagoland. As an example of that, in December of last year, Amazon announced a massive investment into one of their largest data centers in Northwest Indiana. What caught my eye was not that it was in Amazon or in Northwest Indiana, because data center investment is happening everywhere around our country right now. It's that normally when you have an investment announcement, you stand with the mayor. They partner with you and want to celebrate that announcement. This one was interesting because they don't have a site in Northwest Indiana. What they're poised to do is try to benefit from our dense fiber network, Lake Michigan water, and our cool winters to build this data center without having to play by Illinois' regulation. They went so far as in their press release to say that it was Illinois' policies and regulation that made them choose Indiana. The other thing that I want to call out is speculative development. We are seeing lots of development happen across Chicagoland, not for the big tech companies, but for the smaller mom and pop businesses that are transitioning from that on-premise on-premise data storage to larger cloud-based. And then redundancy is the other key word I want to think about. Redundancy gained global notoriety in November when the Chicago Mercantile Exchange's data center out in Aurora had a cooling system failure for 12 hours. That failure cost CME somewhere in the range of $20 trillion in notional trading value for the single day and caused massive global market disruption. That crash has changed how companies are thinking about their data infrastructure and what they need to do. And then finally, the last piece I'll leave you with before we turn it over to our subject matter expert is there are forecasts now calling for slower data center growth starting in 2027. What we're hearing, Microsoft's CFO went so far as to state this in an end of the year fireside chat that she hosted, was we are going to hit a plateau in which we will have all the skeletons that we need for our data centers. The bones will be built. And these companies will start to transition their capital investment from building the physical structures to investing in the brains and nerves that'll power them and make them more beneficial for their end users. So with that primer, I am very pleased that our subject matter expert today, Andrew Batson, who is the global head of data center research for JLL, is able to join us. Andrew, JLL has been a long partner of mine. I have been able to benefit from their knowledge, their professionalism, their expertise so many times, and I am so appreciative that he was able to join us today and answer your questions and provide a global perspective of what they're seeing. So Andrew, please take it away.
Thanks, Kyle, and good to see everyone. As Kyle mentioned, my name is Andrew Batson. I'm the global head of data center research for JLL. For those that aren't familiar, JLL is a commercial real estate services firm headquartered in Chicago. We are the second largest publicly traded real estate firm. Okay, so data centers. We asked to send some thoughts ahead of time, some questions. two main buckets around electricity questions / concerns and water. I will address those, but first let me say I largely agreed with everything that Kyle and team shared up front. In terms of, I would push back though on speculative development. Across the US, roughly 70% of all data centers currently under construction are pre-committed. So there's not, in terms of real estate, a large speculative bubble as it relates to AI or data centers. Now, what's going on in the stock market is quite a different story. But if you focus on the commercial real estate components, to the questions and concerns around electrical and what does it mean for your communities? First, I would say that the electrical grid is regional, multi-state in nature, and then national. So a data center siting in your community or the next community over doesn't have a great impact on the delivery of electricity or the rates that the residents in your specific community will have. There's a lot of concerns about increasing rates, and data centers play a part in that. What I would say is that there's been intense scrutiny on the data center sector for the last few years. There were federal regulations put in place last year that do a few things. Well, above all else, they shield residential rate-paying customers. But those regulations include the data center operators and developers are responsible for paying all assessment and feasibility studies up front. Data centers today are also responsible for paying all incremental infrastructure costs to get electricity to a specific site, be it in your community or the community next door. Large data centers are also responsible for paying 75% or more of the power they've requested for a period of 10 years or more. So there has been a lot of community organization around data centers, particularly NIMBYism, and there are a number of commonly quoted misconceptions around electricity use, who's paying for that, as well as water use. A few of them I've provided some counter arguments there. This is probably a good point to note. You can go to jll.com, search data centers. A large percentage of our research is free to the public, including commentary that I've just shared with you. The other thing I will mention is around the water and the water questions, water concerns. Legacy data centers did consume significant amounts of water through a process called evaporative cooling. So using water to cool facilities. The technology has rapidly moved away from that. You all may have read articles about new data centers that operate under what's called a closed loop system. In these, it's essentially, it's a chiller system that's filled with essentially antifreeze, ethylene glycol, and that closed loop system is cooling the facility. It's no longer water. So in the newest data centers that are going up, the Compass facility in Hoffman was referenced. That is more than likely going to be a closed loop system. Each one of those buildings is probably consuming as much water as a single family detached home over the course of a day. And that's for the dozen or so employees that work out of that particular building. So there's been dramatic improvement in terms of water usage. Now, there still are some legacy facilities that do use water cooling. Water cooling can be a cheaper form of cooling process for data centers. To give you some context, legacy data centers typically consumed roughly 100 gallons per megawatt per hour to cool a facility. It's helpful in the data center sector to provide some analogies. So the average data center being built today is about 40 megawatts. That's roughly the size of a super Walmart, call it 200,000 square feet. Now, the average Walmart only consumes roughly 1 megawatt of consistent load. So an average data center being 40 megawatts, that means one data center about the size of a Walmart is consuming as much as 80 Walmarts all condensed together, okay? But back to the water analogy, that average data center that's running on legacy evaporative cooling is consuming roughly as much water as 300 homes per day. So still not a lot in the grand scheme of things. That's potentially less than some industrial facilities in our region. But I'll just reiterate that the latest technology has quickly moved away from evaporative cooling towards a closed loop system. A couple other points that came through in the questions. Are data centers environmentally safe? These are essentially warehouses filled with computers. So there's not a whole lot of chemical issues there. There is the ethylene glycol in the closed loop evaporative systems. Most data centers run on diesel generators for backup. Those backup generators rarely kick in, but if they do, there's going to need to be some diesel on site. But if we think about some of the benefits, okay, if we go back to that reference point of the average data center built today is 40 megawatts. The cost to construct a data center, roughly speaking, in the US is $10 million per megawatt. Okay, so we're looking at about $400 million in real estate value for the structure of a data center. That does not include all the servers and technology that it's inserted in the building. Okay, but if we just go back to that $400 million in real estate asset value, let's just arbitrarily apply a 2% effective property tax on that facility. You're looking at $8 million in annual tax revenue for a facility that requires very little public services. There's very little to no strain on the school system, police, or fire. There is very little traffic impact for data centers and quite potentially significant property tax revenue. I can pause there. I do need to jump soon for another client meeting, but either now or in a follow-up email, I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay. Is there any questions? Anyone?
If I could chip in here, we've got 5 data centers in our town, and number 6 is on the drawing board. Number 5 is just finishing up. So, I looked at the water bills here, and, the legacy data center that we have is 750,000 square feet. It's about 90 megawatts. They use about 38 million gallons of water a year. But the latest data center, 2-building campus, uses 910,000 gallons of water per year. So you can see the dramatic reduction in water. Just to give you a comparison, one of our laundromats uses 2,300,000 gallons a year. Another laundromat uses 4,300,000 gallons a year. And the car wash uses 15 million gallons per year. So the water usage has come down. Luckily, we're in a location where our data centers are sandwiched between a rail yard, the Tri-State Tollway, and runway 22 left flying over the top of it. And there's cemeteries on the other side of the tollway. So there may be voters over there, but they don't complain. So location is ideal. I mean, you have to have the good location. I think you're running the problems when you butt up against a residential area. And then the other thing is, we're in Cook County, so we've given data centers 6B status. Even with the 6B in place, I've got the tax bill here for one of them. It's a $10 million tax bill with a 6B in place. I mean, we get 10% of that tax bill comes to the city of North Lake. So it's been a boon that way. And then not to mention, collectively, I think the data centers are probably paying about $50,000 a month in utility taxes to the city. So that's a significant factor as well. If we didn't have data center development in North Lake, we would have trucking terminals. And the diesel pollution from trucks 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I would have to think is worse than the occasional firing up of the emergency generating system. So as he said before, I mean, the impact as far as traffic is negligible. Our residents don't even know they're there. And I wouldn't want to see self-generation because we would lose the utility tax, but we'd probably pick it up on natural gas. So I want to see them continue to consume electricity because that utility tax money is very helpful. But that just gives you a perspective from our little point. So,
Mayor McLeod.
Yeah, to jump on what Mayor Sherwin's saying, Compass Data Centers is going to use a closed loop system, ethylene glycol, and Sears Holdings at their height had 9,000 people. They're going to use way less water than Sears Holdings ever used. And it's in a business park. Microsoft has a couple coming in and they're nowhere near residential. I think Mayor Sherwin's right. You don't want to do it in the middle of a residential neighborhood. But if you got the locations, they're not affecting anybody. Traffic is nil. And we put a surcharge on users of electricity above a certain amount. The only ones it'll affect is data centers. It's not going to affect the average citizen, the regular residents of Hoffman Estates or the businesses. So I think data centers can be a real win for a community. And I think there's a lot of negative hype about it. And people are concerned about water and electricity. And both of our data center builders had to build their own substations, which ComEd built, but they had to pay for them. They had to pay the whole cost. So ComEd still has control over the system, which is important. You don't want incompatible systems, but I think that's going to be a real boon for our town as it has been for Jeffstown.
Any other questions? Well, one of my questions, I know data centers use a lot of square feet. Do they see data centers not just being spread out, but actually starting to build up to, accommodate some of the areas that?
Turn your mic on.
the Microsoft data center was the first one. They're 2 stories, 750,000 square feet on 2 stories. T5 is just finishing one up. I think it's 3 stories. So definitely they're going up because of the constraints of the land.
Right.
But the location where T5 is building is, like I say, right between the rail yard and the tollway and the airport. So it's a perfect location. So in the tight locations, they do go up.
What is the minimum square foot that one could go on?
Yeah, I would say probably 200,000 to 250,000 square feet seems to be the size for a 36 megawatt center. You know, I've become an expert at osmosis, but about 200,000 to 250,000 square feet will probably do about a 36 megawatt data center. I know I'll defer to the experts, but I think that seems, we've got one at 750 and they're 90 megawatts. So that was the first one that came in. And interestingly enough, one of our data centers is a converted industrial building. So they didn't build from scratch. They converted an industrial building into a data center. So there's been adaptive reuse in some cases too.
This is Andrew Batson. I'd jump in. Those numbers sound right from the mayor. I would just, and that's for the larger cloud providers like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and Meta. But there are Fortune 1000 companies that need data center solutions. That segment of the industry is called enterprise users. And many of them still build and operate their own facilities. There was a discussion earlier about a migration to the cloud. That doesn't mean everything is shifted to the cloud. There's still some on-premises enterprise data center facilities that could be like the size of a small flex warehouse type facility, maybe 10,000 square feet or so. So it just depends on the user.
Now, some of our data centers, are built as suites. So they operate suites for different companies. So it might be 200,000 square feet, but say Citibank may have certain square footage and they're all very secure. I mean, they're very proprietary about you can't go in here, you can't go in here, you can't go in there, because every client has got their own suite. And I can vouch for the cloud, our own city accounting system, we're going to be converting, we're going to the cloud. So more and more stuff is going into the cloud. So
could I ask a very dumb question? But I'm trying to understand. The cloud still has to have servers somewhere, correct?
Correct.
And so that's got to be based somewhere also. So even though you're going to a cloud, you're going to a server somewhere that's being put out there it's a cloud server. So, I mean, I know you're going to a cloud, but that's still you need space somewhere to put that information at. So
yeah, no dumb questions. The simplest solution there or answer is that historically companies owned and operated all of their own IT infrastructure. And over time, that became an increasing operational cost to businesses whose primary industry is not data center operations. So it's been more efficient over time to outsource that service to the quote unquote cloud, which is still a physical data center
Physical
somewhere.
centers. Exactly. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Because I mean, I hear people say, well, I'm going to the cloud, but you still need that physical spot somewhere to store that information. So, okay. Are there any other questions? Let me ask, another question that I have is, I know you have a lot of large centers, but like you said, there's a lot of areas that have small data centers that communities, maybe like North Chicago, who is landlocked. We have some areas that are small industrial areas that are actually need to be redeveloped. They will still have that opportunity, or we could still have that opportunity to attract them into our community, though it's not a, as large as, some of the areas, but smaller data centers.
Correct. Yeah, either a single small facility on one parcel, or we've helped some data center operators do site aggregation, multiple sites, particularly in Elk Grove. So both are an option. If your community is landlocked, it does not exclude you from future development.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Well, I guess being known, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Very good information and good responses. So
Thank you, Andrew.
thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm. All right, going to 6-2 Northeastern Illinois Development Database Update. We have Dave Morak is back with a update with the Northeastern Illinois Database as it relates to data centers we just had. So, Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, well, this is a update of a presentation that I gave back in June, but we do have some new faces here, so I will very quickly go through the beginning part of the presentation and then go into a live demonstration. May I have the next slide, please? Okay, well, and the next slide after that. Okay, so what is the Northeastern Illinois Development Database? Oh, by the way, my name is David Mork. I work in the Research and Analysis Department. I have been with CMAP and its predecessor, NIPSI, since 1995. And this project is something that I have been working on my entire time here. So it's near and dear to my heart. So the Northeastern Illinois Development Database was started by NIPSI back in 1987 as a way of trying to inform our local, primarily our local economic and population forecasting. And then it's also branched out into other things like our local planning efforts, our water resources planning, other things like that. It is our attempt to cover what sort of growth, development, new development, and redevelopment is going on in Northeast Illinois. This is something that we started back in 1987. We cover all of the major land uses, so commercial, industrial, residential, institutional, and large open space purchases, because from a forecasting perspective, if a certain area has been purchased by, say, the Forest Preserve District, then we know that by 2050, we do not allocate any population or employment to those areas because that is protected open space. And then our model will allocate that population growth elsewhere because that is not someplace where those things are going to go. The idea is to track these developments from the initial proposal stage to when they're actually completed. So from the time a developer comes in front of the Plan Commission with a proposal to the time that development, whether residential or industrial, is actually sitting on the ground, we try to maintain that in our database. And then once something is completed, for historical reference, we leave it in the database then. And may I have the next slide, please? So where do we get all this data? Basically anywhere we can. We subscribe to services like Zonda, CoStar, LoopNet, that gives us some primary intelligence about what's coming down the pike, what's under construction. We take that because that is proprietary information. Then we take that, we do our own research, make sure we get all the details right and everything like that. We maintain contact with developers, and we get things from local news sources, things like that. Even people, when they're commuting, may see something going up along the highway, tell me about it, and I look it up. But the most important place we get things is from municipalities themselves, because this is where a lot of times things that go in the commercial data sources, they don't get everything. They don't get stuff when it first comes to the Plan Commission. They don't get stuff that may be smaller. They also don't get things that are important to us, like expansions of existing facilities, like when a school has an expansion. I just drove past Niles West High School, and they're putting a whole new wing on the building. And from a forecasting perspective, that means that that area is going to have increased employment by 2015 or by 2050. So it'll have by next year. So we need to track that sort of thing. So commercial data sources, once the original data, the building is built, they don't care about it anymore. But we like to see if something is expanded, because that means the employment at that site and the traffic at that site will change. May I have the next slide, please? So we started this back in 1987, and basically last year we finally managed to get to put it online so that it's publicly available. So this is now called the NDD Web Map, which is something that I will be demonstrating in just a moment. So it's a chance for both not only our staff, but municipalities, municipal staff, and the general public to see what sort of development is going on in northeastern Illinois. And from a municipal standpoint, it can be a very useful device, because you can search things region-wide, not only in your own community, but in communities that are nearby or similar to yours. So for example, if you are a mayor of a certain community and you have ABC developer coming in with a proposal and you are not familiar with them at all, you could look in the database, find out where else they've had developments going in the region, and then you could call them and say, we're not familiar with this developer. What you've worked with them, what has been your experience? And then also to find out where developments of a similar type are located across the region. So it's a very good research tool for evaluating development plans that are coming in toward you, or just for finding out what's going on in the region in general. Next slide, please. So since we started this effort, we have gotten 37 municipalities have contacted us, and we've worked with them. We've made 375 additions and edits to various records in the database since June of 2025. And starting this next year, we've gotten some extra staffing available. We're going to start an effort where we're going to reach out to individual municipalities to ask to meet with you virtually, or we can come out to your site and to just go over what we have in the records and see any areas where we might be missing data, what we have is incomplete, what we have is inaccurate, just to make sure that we have a full, complete picture as everything. Like any sort of development gathering effort, we're always running a bit behind, because the day we get caught up to everything that's going on in the region is the day growth stops in the region. So it's a good problem to have that we still have a lot of catching up to do. So that is the effort that we're going to be beginning in 2026. May I have the next slide, please? Actually, no. Okay, yeah, next slide is fine. So now it's time for the demonstration to show how this thing works. So I'm going to share my screen here. And this one.
And I'm going to jump in real quick. The reason why we've brought Dave back is because this database, obviously, given developments with data centers, needs some updating to reflect this particular land use. Dave's been working hard on incorporating information intelligence about where data centers are located in our region for this. Yeah. Should be.
Okay, so how you get to this is the regular CMAP webpage. On here, there's the data tab. When you go to land use data, you can see all the land use data sets that we offer and Northeastern Illinois Development Database. Generally, it's easiest if you open it in a new window and then get the splash screen. And this brings up the home screen of this. And so what this is giving you, it takes a while for it to draw. There are records up here in Lake and McHenry County. It just takes a while for this thing to draw. But they're classified by technology. They're classified right now by whether development is completed, whether it's in development, that is, it's been approved, it's under construction. There's a status called open for residential, which means that they've started, phase 1 is completed, phase 2 is under construction, 100 out of 200 homes are completed, that's in development, or pre-development, which means something is either the developer has an idea of what they want to do, or they've come before the Plan Commission and it's not yet been approved, but we have a pretty solid idea of what's going on there. So then there are two types of filters, basic and advanced, that you can then filter the data by what you're looking for. And then also up here to help us with municipal use there are two buttons, add development and edit development. And those bring up surveys that will allow, if you're looking, say, in your community and you find that you've approved a new Walmart or something and it is not in there, that means we haven't gotten around to doing it yet. You can fill out the survey, perhaps upload the Plan Commission document or something that lets us know that this is going on, and then we can take that information and add it to the database. And that gives us much better information than going through CoStar every 6 months and saying, okay, show me everything that's under construction or approved that you have. It's much better getting it directly from the source. Or there's another survey, edit development, where you could say, okay, this subdivision, Green Acres, we have listed as being half completed. Well, it was completed back in 2024. You can tell us that, and then we can update that so that we know that that development is completed. So normally I would go through and do a lot of the, demonstrate a lot of these filters. But in terms of looking at data centers, we do cover data centers, but right now, we are covering them as warehouses because we do not have a land use category for that. That is something that over the past couple of years, it's become obvious that we need to develop a new land use category to cover data centers. So, but you can find some right now, if we look in the advanced. So in the basic filter, you can filter by municipality and you can filter by multiple ones, by county, by land use. We have about 40 different land use types that we can filter by. The development status, whether something is complete, in development, pre-development. The action, whether it's new construction, expansion, rehab with a new use. For example, if what was just in the building that just sold in Villa Park, the old Ovaltine factory, which was made into apartments. That's in the database as a rehab new use, taking an industrial structure and making it residential. Because from a forecast perspective, that means jobs are moving out of that building, but population is moving in. And so, but then there's also, you can filter on an advanced by the community area in the city of Chicago, development name, developer, search for residential developments of a certain size or square footage of a certain size. And these can all be combined together in various things. So if we're looking at data centers, for example, we want to look at the action, in this case, new construction. So I can apply that filter and that will just bring up only things that are being conducted new. And for right now, we'd have to go through a name search. So if I just type in data here, this is giving me several types of data centers, like for example, just anything that says data center. I hit apply and it zooms into the land and will eventually, everything is going to disappear except the data centers, but the things are moving slowly because I'm on Wi-Fi here. But if I click on the table, this brings up that we have 4 listed. And the reason there's only 4 in here is that these are 4 things that I put in the name data center. So for example, here's Prime Data Centers in Elk Grove. If I click on it, it zooms into where that is. It's right here. And there's another part of it there. There's one Franklin Park. It's called Data Center. And for example, that shows that it's on 19 acres. It's new construction. We have the land use as other commercial, which isn't very good. Shows it's 175,000 square feet, single story. It was construction started in 2018, finished in 2019. Gives you the address and that it's as of 2019, it's listed as completed. For example, and then this one here, this one's in Hillside. And there it is right there. And again, just called a data center. It gives you the developer, 13.1 acres. We have it listed as a warehouse, 245,000 square feet, 2-story building, the address. This one's listed as pre-development. And here it says the Planning and Zoning Board approved the project, which now goes before the village board. And that was as of 3/25/2024. So this would be something where if someone from the village of Hillside and they know that this building has actually been built, they can send us that survey that says this building is completed and we can update that status. Because otherwise we do go through these things with our interns to look at all the statuses, but this way we'll find out quicker than that. But then also if you just type, so that's giving, here's one says walls up, which means it's under construction. And that's in another one at the Prime Data Centers in Elk Grove. That's a different building. But then we also have, if I put in, if I search data center, come here. I noticed that we get also, here's Equinix, Forsyth Data Center, but these have a different name. So we're searching by name here, unfortunately. Is this giving us, okay, Equinix Chicago. So this is actually in Elk Grove. Equinix has something in Elk Grove as well as Manuka. We do have, for example, the data centers that are going in at the Sears category or in Northlake. We have several in Northlake that are in the development database. The problem for this search is they have a different name. They're named under the name of the development. They're not, data center does not appear in the name. So what we're doing in the next month is we're creating a new land use category called data center so that when, for example, if I were just to search on a different land use here, say I am just searching on distribution centers, for example, and I hit apply. Down here, it shows that there are 866 distribution centers in our region, and that's based on the land use. So we will have this in the next month, that you'll be able to search under data center and not just the name. So anyway, that's basically it, and thank you very much for your time.
Are there any questions? I just want to say, I think this is a very good resource for a lot of the communities, especially as they, your economic development department are looking for different land uses and different things that are going on within, the area. So thank you. Thank you so much. I think this is going to be very useful for us. So appreciate that. All right. Those are all the things that we now know about data centers. Let's move back into our regular scheduled meeting. So let's go back to 2-0, approval of the minutes. Could I have a motion and a second for the, been moved by Mayor Skillman and a second? Second by, don't care. Thank you. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. That was for the June 3rd, 2025 meeting minutes. Chairman reports. We're going to hold off, Mayor Shelkey, on your chairman report for right now. We can pick that up at our next meeting. Moving to 4-0 as CMAP announcements. We're going to have Aaron do the announcements.
Great. Thank you so much. So it's good to be here. It's great to have a good convening of mayors. I think just on the topic of data centers and the data that you just saw, these allow us as a regional planning agency to really think about how our region is shifting across decades, right? And what do we need to be prepared for and thinking about? And that's really the story of what we're embarking on this next year. So the Century Plan, at the end of the year last year, we had an event launching the Century Plan, which is our region's next vision for the future of our region. And we're really trying to think beyond just the 20-year time horizon. So thank you to many of you who came out and enjoyed the event. It was also our 20th anniversary of CMAP here. This next year is really our primary year for doing public engagement around the Century Plan to hear from stakeholders across the region about what they care about and what we should be focused on as a regional planning agency. So there will be two streams of work, one of which is working with our councils of governments and local elected officials to really understand how you see the region coming from your local perspective. So we'll be working with all of our councils of governments to come out, host some workshops. We'll be bringing some key data, information, insights on all sorts of different things, transportation, water, energy, land use, and really trying to help hear from you about what we should be thinking about and what would help you do your jobs better as we look to the future here. We will also be planning a series of workshops, a stakeholder series on key issues, convenings that we hope to have curated conversations on topics like water, like the future of technology in our region and how it impacts our land use decision making. Again, with the hope that we can bring together some of the civic and business leaders across the region as well for that. The first event in this series is Wednesday, February 11th in Mundelein in Lake County, where we're working on exploring strategies to expand housing that's affordable for all residents across the region and think about how that helps us have stronger jobs and economic growth in our region. Jane will share the details of that with you at a later point here. A few other things I wanted to hit on. One, I think you're all aware, transit governance and funding passed. You'll hear more about this during the legislative report, but CMAP is going to continue to be a resource to the agencies as they start to stand up. The NETA board, really looking at the timelines, the deliverables, and making sure that they're thinking not about just the agency, but really delivering greater transit value to the region. The idea of giving greater funding to our transit system operators here is really with the intention of addressing some of the critical needs that happen across the region, where there are places where there's opportunity for greater transit, where there are opportunity to get people to and from jobs or the places that they need to go. And so really part of our role is to make sure that we're holding those agencies accountable to expanding transit service, as well as being accountable for the funding and all of the other sort of governance reforms they need to put in place here. CMAP is also going to undergo its federal certification review. We do this every 4 years. So we have two hats. One is our federal hat, where we help maintain and manage the federal funding that comes to projects across the region for transportation infrastructure. And the other hat is the regional planning hat. That's the state hat that we have. The federal certification review really comes out of those federal authorities that we have. So we will have Federal Highway Authority and Federal Transit Authority on site here at the end of January, where we will be walking them through our program of work that we've and all of the things that we've done to make sure that we are in compliance with the rules and regulations that govern us here. So that will happen at the end of this month. There'll be an opportunity for the public and yourselves to provide feedback if you're so interested as well. We have a public comment form linked on our website on the federal certification page. So we will certainly share that with you all as well. And then just finally, I wanted to share that we sent our annual invoices to counties, municipalities, and our transportation partners. These payments are due this month. The federal process requires 20% local match for us to receive those federal dollars in the region. So that's the primary reason for your contributions. But I'm also always happy to sit down and talk with you if you have peers, neighbors that are, getting that invoice and wondering what it is. I am happy to come out, schedule one-on-one meetings with folks and talk about some of the services we provide to our local municipalities. And then finally, just a congratulations to Mayor Sonoyka, who's been appointed to the RTA board just recently. So just wanted to recognize that. Other than that, I am happy to answer any questions that you all might have or take feedback.
Are there any questions for Aaron? Well, Aaron, there's no question, but we want to say congratulations to you for receiving your Excellence in Public Service Award. So thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
For receiving that. Great job.
I appreciate that.
Great job. We've got good people here. We need to recognize them when they achieve things. So congratulations to that. All right, 5-0 action items. We have moving into 5.01, the 2026 meeting schedule in accordance with the committee bylaws and also the Illinois Open Meetings Act. We must approve the meeting schedule for 2026. And that is going to be a vote for in regards to our March, June, and September meeting. It could be either in person or remotely. So is there a motion to accept the 2026 meeting schedule?
So moved by Mayor Sonoyka.
It's been moved and second that our 2026 meeting schedule be passed as presented. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 5.001, appointment of Surface Transportation Program Project Selection Committee. This is the first of 3 items to appoint members of this committee as representatives to 3 other CMAP committees. STP Project Selection Committee reviews the STP shared funds applications and recommendation projects to MPO policy committees for funding. The committee develops a methodology for choosing projects with parameters for assessing disadvantaged communities, the development policies for the active program management of the STP shared funds and local programs, which it updates as needed. So at this time, I think Mayor Schielke, Mayor President Kukler, and myself has agreed to be reappointed to that position. So is there a motion and a second to accept the STP Project Selection Committee?
So moved by Mayor Sonoyka.
Second, there's a motion and a second to accept the STP Project Selection Committee. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right, 5-03, appointment to the CMAC, CRP, and TAP-L Project Selection Committee. The CMAC CRP and TAP Project Selection Committee provides overall guidance for the development of the Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Improvement Program, Carbon Reduction Program, and as I turn my page, CRP and the Locally Programmed Transportation Alternative Program, TAP, and the recommended projects to the MPO Policy Committee for funding. This project selection committee also reviews and considers changes to the scope, schedule, and funding programs of these projects. We make one appointment to this project selection committee, and I understand that President Dave Bradley will be appointed to that. Are you accepting that? Let me just ask that. Yes, because we got another one that we need. Anyway, is there a motion and a second? Been motioned and second to appoint David Brady to the position of CMAC, CRP, and TAP-L Project Selection Committee. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, and thank you for that. Okay, now we have the 5.04, appointment of the Unified Work Program Committee. The Unified Work Program Committee developments a program of transportation planning projects and recommendations to the CMAP, Metropolitan Planning Organization, MPO Policy Committee. Okay, we don't have anybody on that one. But we need someone on that.
Nominate Mayor Sinoka.
Would anybody like to take that?
Mayor McLeod is nominating me. Is there an opportunity to be able to defer this to the March 3rd meeting? Okay, so I would like to move to defer this
Okay, just
item.
to let you know that it is, it meets, the meeting is Thursdays. It meets 5 times, Thursday at 1:30, but you can do it remotely.
I appreciate that. The reason being is that with the recent November appointment to the RTA board, which also meets on Thursdays, this is the request for the deferment then until March to make sure that those schedules do in fact line up.
Okay,
Appreciate the patience from the committee on that.
thank you for,
And if I may, Mayor, what we could do too is whether or not you have an in-person quorum to actually vote to appoint then Mayor Sonoyka to the UWP committee, we could delegate that authority to our executive director, and that's how the appointment could happen. So you've got time.
okay, so we will defer that to the March meeting. Thank you. 6 show and informational items. We'll go to 6-03, update for the ETAP platform. Sarah.
All right. Good morning, mayors. I am here to share with you some upgrades to our ETIP online transportation improvement program platform. Today will be a live demo, so I know we're getting a lot of tools here for databases, for data center developments, but I'm going to show you a little bit more about kind of our transportation planning and programming. So as a refresher, the Transportation Improvement Program here at CMAP is a 5-year portfolio of federally funded and regionally significant transportation projects throughout our area. CMAP has used an ETIP to catalog projects for the last decade or so. An upgraded version of the platform was launched in September of 2025 in collaboration with Echo Interactive, who is our software partner here. These changes modernized both the public-facing site as well as the data collection site on the secure back end. These updates include enhanced geospatial data collection and interactive mapping, as well as expanded search tools. So today I'll provide a quick demonstration of the public-facing ETIP website that your constituents and your staff have access to. Your planning liaisons work all the time in the back end of this. So I just want to kind of highlight some of the features and available data for you all today. Get that up on the screens there. All right, so here we have a landing page for the online tip. You'll see kind of a welcome with an overview of different pages within this website. So we have projects, plan revisions, projects by county, and an interactive map, as well as additional tip resources. If anyone would like more information about the planning and programming methods for our federal funds throughout the region, as well as contact information. And again, I do want to highlight here that your planning liaisons through your councils are really your local experts on these. So as much as CMAP staff is always available to answer any questions about projects, they really are going to be your go-to for programming questions through the tip. And so here we'll highlight our projects page just to kind of show you what data is available to residents in your area. It does take a second to load. We have about 2,000 projects in here in the next 5 years. So the tip does cover federal fiscal years 2026 to 2030 at this point. So any projects with federal funding within that window is listed on here, as well as regionally significant designated projects. And so here's our landing page. You can see here that we kind of have a full list of projects. Right now they're sorted by project title in alphabetical order, but this list is fully sortable by a number of different categories if you are looking for a specific set of information. But we have a few examples for you all here today that are relevant to your communities. And so we'll start a search here just by going through the lead agency. And here we'll select Kane County Council, or Kane Kendall Council. And then we'll do an advanced search. And in the title description, we'll add Randall Road. This is a major corridor going through multiple communities within the Kane Kendall Council. So if you want to get a sense of what's going on throughout the entirety of that corridor, you can see here, we have a list of projects populating on this table down here. So throughout the council, we have different projects. We have some road modernizations, bicycle pedestrian improvements, all totaling around $145.3 million. You can see just in Randall Road in Kendall County, we have improvements that we can kind of see and export this data here. Another example, we can reset. And again, it just takes a second to load here, but you can also search at the municipal level. And so if you want to see exactly what's going on within your municipality, we have the ability to kind of highlight that, as well as different federal fiscal years for funding. So here we'll use Worth as an example. These are all searchable, so we know Worth is toward the end of the alphabet. Go ahead, select Worth. You can see those already start to populate. We could also search by project type. So if we want to look at intersection improvements, if our residents are interested or if our staff is looking more into this, we can search there, as well as looking into the current fiscal year. So we can get all the way down to 2 projects here. And then we have an exact answer of what's going on with intersection improvements in Worth this fiscal year. And so it's a really nice tool to get an idea of what's happening in your community, your council, and the region. And so here we'll see we have multiple agencies. We have one that's an IDOT project and one that's a Southwest Council. So to get more information on each project, you're able to click into them, view the project page, and we get a number of different data points here. First, you'll see a map on the left that points you exactly where this is going to happen. We also have our completion year of 2028, so we know when this will be open to traffic for our residents. We can see our contact is our PL for Southwest Council, Brittany Mattias, as well as the CMAP implementing group. So for this is STP local. You guys just did an appointment to the STP committee. So that's kind of the connection here, is that those decisions get made and these projects get put into our tip. You could also see a breakdown of the work types. So if you're curious exactly what's going on with this intersection improvement, a lot of these projects are pretty complex. You can see they're making some bicycle and pedestrian updates. They're also improving the ADA infrastructure for this project. So it really does paint you a nice picture, as well as a written description here of what changes are going to be implemented in your community. We can also see a breakdown of the funding here. So right now we can see there's funds in federal fiscal year 26 for engineering 2, as well as construction, for a total of about $1 million. So there we get a nice capture of the project. We could also see a history, the evolution of the funding on this project, when grants were awarded and added into the tip, as well as a revision history. So you can see how this project evolved over time, if work types were added, if different like locational information was changed. You also have the ability to download this information as a PDF, as well as a shareable link. So if you have community newsletters, if you want to highlight a project, or if you're communicating with your staff about something, all of this is shareable data. We'll go ahead, click out of here, and continue just to show you a few other tabs available here. So this is our plan revisions. This captures the evolution of projects over time, summarizing changes submitted and approved through our TIP amendment process. And this, again, is completed mostly by your council's PLs, not too much to share here. We also have a projects by county map, so that gets more into that interactive mapping feature that we have here. And so for this, we can show an example of DuPage County. If we click on there, it'll load up all the projects. It'll also highlight the geography on the map. And you see 219 projects are within DuPage County, and we see a breakdown of this table here of different project types, number, and funding total. We could also aggregate it, add Lake County as well. That'll load, and you'll see those totals start to change. So a really great tool, again, for kind of understanding what's going on at a macro and micro scale. And finally, we have an interactive map. This one, like the NDD, does take a while to load because we have a lot of data here. So I preloaded one on our other tab. This is a map highlighting our active transportation projects throughout the region. So that's just this one project layer toggled on. You can see there's 204 projects in this category. And we can go ahead, zoom in. So for example, if I wanted to see just kind of the North Shore, this is a really nice network level view. So you can understand how these connections can be made between one community and another. Obviously, if you're riding your bike for many miles, you might cross different boundaries. So you can kind of see different projects going on here. It's also searchable. So let's just say, for example, I'm interested in Glencoe. We'll go ahead and select that. And there we see we have a number of different projects going on for active transportation improvement in Glencoe within the federal fiscal years of 26 to 2030. So it's a really nice tool to kind of explore, learn more, and kind of see high-level data on all the projects going on and funded through committees and through CMAP that are happening here today. So that's all I have for you. If there are any questions about the ETIP, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, we'll keep the meeting moving.
All right. Any questions for Sarah? Another great tool.
Another great tool. Lots of data from CMAP here. So thank you all so much.
Can I just wanted to give one kudos to the team. This was a lot of work to update into a more user-friendly system. And it was so great because the state has also recognized how important this is. So we are also facilitating the use of this tool through our contracting and purchasing processes for all of the rest of the MPOs across the state. So, and we'll be doing some overviews for our congressional delegation as well, because they want to know where our federal funds are being spent. And so this allows us to have that level of transparency with our congressional partners as we go into federal transportation reauthorization. We're hoping that they can continue to make sure that we get the most federal transportation dollars that we can in this region. So thanks to the TIP team for all their work.
Thank you so much.
Excellent job. Great resource. All right, 6.04 legislative update. Ryan.
Good morning, mayors. I'm Ryan Gugis, an Intergovernmental Affairs Specialist with CMAP's Intergovernmental Affairs team. I hope 2026 is off to a great start, right? Happy New Year to everyone. This is my first time seeing you all, so I think it's still appropriate to say, right? You got to set that deadline when you stop saying Happy New Year to folks, right? So in the federal space, like Aaron kind of mentioned, progress towards the next surface transportation reauthorization bill continues. Congressional authorizing committees have begun circulating draft language for internal review in anticipation of public release and markups during the first quarter of 2026. We know that the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or IIJA, is set to expire this year on September 30th, and so Congress is working ahead of this deadline. So we kind of mentioned this during the November meeting last year, but CMAP staff, we convened a group of regional transportation implementers, advocacy groups, and stakeholders to develop One Regional Voice 2025, which reflects the shared principles of Northeastern Illinois transportation stakeholders and the federal surface transportation reauthorization. One Regional Voice outlines key policy principles for the next reauthorization bill, including supporting a transportation system that works better for everyone, adopting a safe systems approach, and bolstering a robust regional economy, and enhancing quality of life for residents across the region. CMAP staff, we've shared this document with the region's delegation and other federal stakeholders to really help inform federal policy and investment decisions in the next reauthorization bill. We'll continue this engagement, right? We know that this is important for our region, and especially for our local communities as well. As we talk about some of those funding programs, STP, CMAC, CRP, a lot those funds come from a reauthorization. And so we want to make sure that we're well positioned to bring the most resources, to our region so we can continue to support a lot of the great work in our local communities. In the state space, I'll kind of give just a high-level overview of the transit funding and reform legislation. So on December 16th, Governor J.B. Pritzker signed SB 2111 into law, enacting the Northern Illinois Transit Authority Act, or NETA, which provides $1.5 billion in funding to support operating and capital needs of our region's transit system. So the law directs existing state sales tax from motor fuel to transit operation. It authorizes the RTA board to approve a 0.25% RTA sales tax increase and provides some new capital revenue from interest on the road fund, which makes up this nearly $1.5 billion investment. Tolls are also increased to 45% for passenger vehicles and 30% for commercial vehicles. And those revenues are directed toward the tollways capital program. So the law also includes several measures to promote transit and trail supporter development in the region, and authorize NETA to acquire, construct, maintain, and sell property within certain boundaries of transit stations, bus stops, and public trails as well. And so the legislation kind of carves out, what those, what sort of that those boundaries and thresholds are. A 20-member NETA board is established with 5 members appointed by the governor, the mayor of Chicago, the Cook County board, and then the Collier County leadership as well. So kind of restructuring the current RTA board a little bit. The new board is also tasked with some new responsibilities that improve user safety experience and fosters a more integrated transit system. So, thinking about how we can, have one app or one device that can, allow us to access the entire system. One of the key things is, incorporating a transit ambassadors program to help, support new users on the system, but also support, current users and thinking about doing it in a safe way. So, the law is set to take effect on June 1 of 2026 or this year, and all new board appointments must be approved by the appointed authorities within 120 days of this effective date. So the time clock has started to kind of get this process rolling. So we're very excited to support that work, here at CMAP, and want to continue to be a resource and that and an asset to the General Assembly, and as that transition process is underway. The last thing I want to talk about is another piece of legislation that passed during the veto session, which has also been signed into law on December 12th of last year by the governor. It's a tax omnibus measure, but more specifically, it expands the sales tax and revenue bonds, or STAR bonds, to support development projects throughout the state. STAR bonds allow local governments to finance major tourism, entertainment, and retail projects by pledging a portion of the future state and local sales tax revenues to those projects that those projects are expected to generate. So kind of similar to a TIF, but more focused on sales tax revenues to support those projects and financing. STAR bonds are projects intended to bolster significant economic activity, and they must meet certain investment and job creation thresholds. The law requires that local units of government submit a notice of intent to create a STAR bond district to the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity and the Department of Revenue by June 1st of 2026. If there's interest in doing that, that first step is, submitting a notice of intent by that deadline. STAR bond district plan proposals and related documents must be submitted to DCEO, IDOR, and the Governor's Office of Management and Budget, or GOMBI, by January 1st of 2027. So there's a notice of intent that has to be submitted by June 1st, and then January 1st of 2027, kind of a more fleshed out, plan and a proposal and supporting documents as far as that STAR bond district. The law also establishes what's called a new opportunities for vacation and adventure districts, or NOVA districts. These operate under similar guidelines to STAR bonds, but require higher investment and job creation thresholds to support even, large scale projects. DCO has established they've scheduled a technical assistance webinar for the STAR bonds program. And on Wednesday, January 28th at 1 p.m., they'll be hosting this technical webinar. And following today's meeting, we'll send out some more information, to the mayor so that you all can, disperse that amongst your colleagues and also to, some of your, internal staff if there's an interest in looking into some of these STAR bonds. And then lastly, the General Assembly, they're scheduled to convene their regular session this week. I believe that the Senate is in today. And we'll be sure to keep this committee updated and informed, as session progresses and there's legislative measures that may be of interest or relevant, to the work you all are doing. And so that concludes my legislative update, and I'm happy to answer any questions for you all.
Any questions? A lot of information. Very good. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all so much.
Right. Moving on, other business at this time. Is there anything else that you need to be brought to our meeting? Hearing none. Public comments. Anyone? Any public comments?
No public comment, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Jeff Shoki here. I just want to thank Mayor Rockingham for an excellent job in covering for me. I'm still sitting here with my mask on and listening to everything, but you really did a phenomenally nice job. And thanks, number one, to you, but also the CMAP board and the staff for the great job we're doing, because we're heading into some really challenging times in the region in the days ahead, which are very obvious to me. And we've got some things that are happening that I think are going to be wanting to be further explored. So we got a lot of stuff going on, and we are very blessed to have the CMAP organization kind of taking us in the lead in this and trying to direct us in the right directions as a region. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Schielke. And I will give you your seat back in March. So, but thank you so much, and I appreciate those comments. And I want to echo the same. Staff here at CMAP does an excellent job, and we do appreciate all that you do on the behalf of the municipalities throughout the region. So with that, our next meeting is Tuesday, March 3rd. It is a workshop meeting. That means that, you may attend either in person or remotely. So at this time, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Been moved and seconded that the meeting stand adjourned. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Right on time. You
Yes.
did run on time.